Well, you don't want to.
But it got put out.
I pay rent, pay the card note.
Wow.
I'm a stupid. Remember, fellas, put shit under your name, and now you're gonna get over, dog.
Yeah, you sell some checks to old girl.
Fucking have to come from work. She comes out of all my clothes. She just throws it out. I cleaned up the whole patio yesterday. I cleaned up the whole yard yesterday, and that's literally what I'm getting. Now I'm stressing. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm a man, and I gotta keep going. This ain't right.
I see the pain in you.
But it's gotta happen, right?
Brother. And here to you.
I just say, may God bless her and take care of her and take care of my daughter. But remember, fellas, don't be having kids with any woman out here. Don't be having shit. Don't be paying shit if it's not under your name. We gonna get this. We gonna get back up.
I always tell a young man, don't move in with a woman unless your name is on the lease. I'm sure the ladies tell the young women, don't move in to another man's house unless your name is on something. In his case, he showed receipts where he was paying the rent, paid the car note, it still got put out. I don't know if there was somebody else in the picture that came in the picture, but I don't know. But I'm gonna be honest with you. You always got to protect yourself, and you just don't go out here and procreate with anybody. You know, I remember one person, I moved into their house. I was young, man. I ain't moving to the house. I was just over there a lot. They told me to get the heck up out of their house because my name wasn't on that. During the argument, we was cool. Then we had an argument. They told me to get up out of it. I raised up out of there. Then it was like a couple of days. You want to come back up? Nah, I'd never step foot in your house again. Because I had one. I had my own place. But you ain't gonna tell me get out more than once. Never come back. So always put your name on it, man, if you got it. But it is what it is. Sorry you got to go through that, brother. Let's move on.
Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rekakadash, and double honors and respect to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me this truth, as well as much respect and honors to the brothers that are pushing this truth and sincerity across the four winds of this earth and risking their lives and freedom to do so. I would also like to give much honors and respect to the brothers and sisters that are of the hopeful elect that are doing their very best to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High to the best of their abilities. Shalom. As you saw in this short video that I just shared with you, you have this Jake right here, this Northern Kingdom Jake at the bottom of this photo, this still photo. Anyway, he was recently put out of the house, okay, by his woman. Now here it is. You heard what he had said. He said that he was paying bills in the home. He even showed receipts and everything like that of bills that he was paying in the home. And he also said that he was paying a car note, okay, but his woman ended up, kicking him out of the home. Now, I don't know the backstory as to why she put him out of the home, but at the end of the day, he got put out of the home and his name wasn't on the lease, or if they had a mortgage, his name wasn't on the mortgage, okay, because he said that. He was saying, if you're going to, live with the woman, make sure that your name is on the lease or on the mortgage. Which does make a lot of sense. That's right. Okay. But, most importantly, it's just always good to have a place of your own. Okay. And I'm speaking to you, men of Israel. It's always good to have a place of your own. Or, if you are going to live with a woman, make sure that your name is on that mortgage or make sure your name is on that lease. And so therefore, it makes it a little bit more difficult, for that woman to try to remove you from that home. But even with that being said, let's just say if you are, living with the woman and your name is on the lease, or if your name is on the mortgage, if you're dealing with a wicked woman, that wicked woman can have you kicked out of that home. Okay. And so with that being said, men of Israel, this is why you have to be very careful when you're dealing with these women out here. Okay. You got to be very careful with them, dealing with these women out here. Now, here it is. You had this, man at the top of the video. He was narrating or pretty much, commenting on the video, and, he made a lot of sense. Okay. He was saying that, you should, if you're going to live with a woman, you should at least have your name on the mortgage or on the lease, or, you should at least have a place of your own. Also, too, it's always good to have a few dollars put away, too. It's always good to have a few dollars tucked away. Just in case, you come upon a hard times, or just in case, a situation like this come up, and you are living with the woman and you have to leave, at least you got a few dollars tucked away to where you can get you a hotel room to where you can stay for a couple of days until you can put you a deposit down on another place to stay. Now here it is, listening to this Jake at the bottom, this Northern Kingdom Jake, I don't believe he had any of those things in his plans, because he pretty much had said that he didn't know what his next move was going to be. Okay, and so he was pretty much at the mercy of that woman right there. Okay, because here it is, he had pretty much moved in with that woman and her name was on everything. And so she pretty much had the power to kick him out of the home. And she did. And more than likely, she probably called the cops on him, because I think there was 2 police cars in the video. Okay. Now here it is. I actually know someone who went through something like this. I know a Jake that was put out of the home by Eve. And here it is. This Jake, what had happened was he had initially had a place of his own. He had an apartment that he was renting. But here it is. He was being cheap. He was trying to save money, and he ended up moving in with this woman, okay, that he was dealing with. Now here it is, him and this woman, they pretty much, was always arguing and things like that. Now, according to this Jake, he never got physical with the woman, but they was always into it. And so I guess one day she just got fed up with him. And while the Jake was in the shower, okay, she called the police on the Jake. And the police came, to the house. And while the Jake was in the shower, the police was waiting on him to come out of the shower. Now, once the Jake got out of the shower, okay, the police, they gave that Jake 5 minutes to put some clothes on and to grab a few things. And they said he better be out of that house within 5 minutes, or else he was going to go to jail. Okay, and so just like, this Northern Kingdom Jake that's in this video right here, this Jake that I'm telling you about, he was in basically the same, situation. So he had to, grab a few things, and he had to be up out of the house. And he was, and so what he did was, he got up out of the house, and I think he was just basically sitting on the curb waiting for his brother to pick him up, because he had called his brother, to come and pick him up. Luckily for him, his brother picked him up, and his brother allowed him to stay, at his place for the time being until, he could get a place of his own. But, again, that's a bad situation to be in. Okay. And so, again, men of Israel, you got to be very careful when you're dealing with these women. And if you're going to live with the woman, again, make sure, that your name is on the lease or on the mortgage, or at least make sure you got a place of your own. Okay, and so therefore, let's just say if you go over there and you chill with her for a little bit and she gets in her feelings and whatnot, or if she's on demon time, you can leave and go back to your own place. Okay, just like how this Jake at the very top was saying. He was saying that, here it is. He was dealing with someone and they got upset with him and they told him to leave. But, he ended up, luckily for him, he kept his own place. And so he ended up going back to his own place. Then I think he said eventually, the woman that he was dealing with, she, I guess, she asked him to come back over, after she had gotten out of her feelings. And he said hell to the no, which I don't blame him, But again, it's always good to make sure your name is on that lease if you're going to live with the woman, or, make sure you keep your place to where, if something does, come up to where she's on demon time, you can at least go back to your own place. Or, at the bare minimum, at the bare least, at least keep a few dollars in your pocket. It's always good to keep a few dollars, tucked away, just in case, some things come up. Okay. But, I saw this short video right here, and I just thought that I would, bring out a quick lesson. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead and bring out a couple of scriptures. The first scripture I actually want to go to is in the book of Deuteronomy. And this is chapter 28, and this is verse 56. And it reads, "The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness. Her eyes shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter." Okay. And see, here it is, many of our women. And when I say our women, I'm talking about the women of the nation of Israel, who are you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, and those that are of the speckled bird that look like these other nations, but you go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob on your father's side. Many of our women, they have an evil eye, towards their husband. Okay, now here it is, back to this particular video that I shared. This woman, she had an evil eye towards her man. Now here it is, she had a child with this man, and she put him out of the home. Now, I don't know the backstory as to what happened, but according to this Jake right here, he was maintaining the home. He was helping to maintain the home. I think he said he was maintaining the yard. He was helping pay bills. He was also paying a a car note, and she still put him out of the home. Okay. And see, here it is. Men about women, they have an evil eye, towards their husband. Okay, because here it is. In many cases, you have a lot of our women. They want to try to rule over the man. Okay. Everything is totally out of order over here in America, also known as Babylon the Great. And that's because you got the wicked that's bearing rule. And that wicked is Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. And this devil, again, he has everything turned upside down. This devil, he pushes out all types of wicked philosophies, all types of wicked enchantments. And a lot of our women had taken on those wicked enchantments and philosophies. And you have a lot of our women, they want to rule over men. And in many cases, when a lot of our women, they can't, rule over the man, they'll have an evil eye towards that man. Okay. And in many cases, when Eve, gets in her feelings, when she can't get her way with Jake, okay, she's quick to want to call the police on Jake through she's quick to want to call the police on Jake and to have Jake, kicked out of the home. Or she's quick to want to call, the police on Jake to, to try to have Esau to either, go upside Jake's head with a billy club or to try to cause harm to Jake and whatnot. A lot of Eves do this when they get in their feelings. Okay. Or in many cases, when Eve can't get her way with Jake, she's quick, to want to try to, threaten to stick him on child support to try to ruin him financially. She's quick to want to try to keep Jake from seeing the children, okay, to try to hurt Jake, It says, the Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 56 again, it says, the tender and delicate woman among you, which would not have ventured to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. Okay, now here it is. As I was telling you earlier, I had a friend that went through a similar situation to where his woman put him out of the home. Okay, she had an evil eye towards him. Okay, because here it is. He gave up his apartment. He had let his apartment go, and moved in with her and was helping her out with the bills and everything like that. Now here it is. She knew that he didn't have a place to go. She knew that he had gave his apartment up, but she didn't care. Okay, she wanted him out of the home, and so she called the police on him, and she called Esau on him and had him kicked out of the home. And she didn't care that he didn't have nowhere else to go. But luckily for him, his brother allowed him to stay with him temporarily until he could get back up on his feet. But a lot of these women, a lot of our women, they have that evil eye towards their husband. It says, and toward her son and toward her daughter, because also, too, a lot of our women, they have an evil eye, towards their sons as well as their daughters. Okay. Because as I had mentioned earlier, in many cases when, Eve, gets into her feelings, when Eve can't get her way with Jake, she's quick to want to try to stick Jake on child support, or she's quick to want to try to keep Jake from seeing the children, even though she knows that Jake wants to be in those children's lives. She tries to keep Jake from seeing the children to try to hurt Jake. Okay. But with that being said, she's not only hurting that Jake, she's also hurting those children, because those children, they need that male role figure in their lives. And especially if you got a man that's sincere and that's really trying to be there for his children, and you got a wicked Eve that's trying to keep that man from seeing those children. Okay, she's not only hurting that man, she's hurting those children as well. And see, as a result, here it is. You have a lot of children. They grew up without a male role figure in their lives. Okay, they grew up without their dad. Okay, and in many cases, as a result of this, you have a lot of little girls. They grow up and they end up, taking rides on the cock carousel and whatnot. They end up, becoming part of this stock culture and whatnot. They end up having multiple baby fathers and whatnot as a result of not having a male role figure in their lives. Also, too, you have little boys. In many cases, when they don't have a male role figure in their lives, they end up, turning to some type of mischievous behavior. Okay, they end up in the juvenile system. They end up in the juvenile detention system. They end up in the prison system, Esau's prison system. In many cases, they end up turning to the Mo agenda. Also, too, in many cases, they end up, 6 feet under. Okay, because they don't have that male role figure in their lives. And see, Eve, she doesn't care about the fact that, these children, they need a male role figure in their lives. In many cases, she's in her feelings. And so she's basically trying to get at that Jake. And so she doesn't really care, okay, about the fact that, that her children need that male role figure in their lives. And so, she has that evil eye, okay, towards that husband. And she also has that evil eye towards her children. Because even though, in many cases, you'll have children, they'll be crying out, okay, for their dad. But Eve, she'll get bitter behind it. In many cases, when Eve is bitter at that Jake, She'll try to keep those children from seeing their dad. And that's that evil eye that many of our women have towards their husband as well as their children. Okay. This is the book of Proverbs, and this is chapter 31, and this is verse 3. And it reads, "Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroy kings." Okay. And see, here it is, back to this video that I shared. This Northern Kingdom Jake, he had pretty much given his strength over to that woman. Because here it is, he had moved in with that woman. He was pretty much at the mercy of that woman. He had moved in with that woman. His name wasn't on the lease. Okay. He was paying bills over there, and again, his name wasn't on the lease. Okay. He was also paying a car note, and more than likely his name wasn't on the car. Wasn't on the car note. But, he was pretty much, giving his strength over to that woman. And when that woman got upset with him, she put him out of the house. She had him removed from the home because he was pretty much at the mercy of that woman. Okay. She had the power to do so. He pretty much given that woman power over him. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 3 again, it says, "Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroy kings." Okay. And see, here it is, you'll have a lot of men in many cases. They'll hand their whole entire check over to a woman. I know this Jake in particular. I know another Jake. This is what he used to do. This Jake, he used to give his entire check over to a woman. Here it is, throughout the week, he would be broke, okay, because he done gave his whole check over to his woman. And here it is, that woman, what she would do is she would take that check and she would just blow it, okay? She would blow it on things that she wanted, And one day she got upset with him. She got mad at him, and she had him removed from the home. Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe his name wasn't on the lease either. Okay, and so she had him removed from the home. But as a result of him, not being able, or I should say like this, as a result of him giving his entire check over to that woman every week, when he would get paid, he would give his entire check over to that woman. And as a result of him doing that, he had no money saved up to where he could get a place of his own. And so therefore, he was left in a bad situation. He was left in the cold. Okay. I think a friend, ended up allowing him to stay in his apartment, and I think he had to sleep on the couch or on the floor or something like that. But still, that's a bad situation to be in. That's a very bad situation to be in. It says, "Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroy kings." And see, here it is. You've had many kings that have fallen from power, all behind giving their strength over to a woman. Okay, you've had many men, okay, that have ended up in bad predicaments, in bad situations, all because they gave their strength, over to a woman. Okay. And see, here it is, as I had mentioned, this Jake, he was pretty much giving this entire check over to that woman. That's terrible. Okay. Because, see, money is definitely something that you need in this society to function. Okay. Money is a defense, and you need money. Again, you need money in this society in order to function. But what this Jake was doing, he was giving his entire check over to that woman. Okay, so he was giving his strength over to that woman. And in the end, it ended bad for him in the end. It ended bad for him in the end. Okay, this is 1 Ezra, and this is chapter 4, and this is verse 26. And it reads, "Ye, there be many that have run out of their wits for women, and become servants for their sakes." Okay, and see, here it is, this Jake right here, this Northern Kingdom Jake in the video, he had pretty much ran out of his wits, behind this woman that he was dealing with. And see, the word wits, that goes into like intelligence, that goes into like cleverness. And here it is, his Jake, he wasn't using any intelligence, he wasn't using any cleverness, okay, when he was dealing with this woman. Because here it is, he had moved in with this woman, and his name wasn't on the lease, his name wasn't on the mortgage. And so therefore, he was at the mercy of this woman. Okay, this woman had pretty much had power over him to have him removed from the home. And she did, she removed him from the home. Okay, and so the wise thing, or a wise thing for this Jake to have done, or what he should have done was he should have, had a place of his own. So therefore, if he would have, if he was to have gone over to this woman's house and chill with her for a little bit, and let's just say if she was to have gotten her feelings, or if she was on demon time or something like that, he could have left and went back to his own place. Okay, or at least, he could have at least had his name on the mortgage or on the lease. So therefore, it would have made it a little bit more difficult for this woman to have removed him from the home. Okay. But he didn't have any of that. Okay. And from from listening to him, it looked like he was just kind of, pretty much in a bad situation. Okay. He was in pretty much a bad situation. And see, also too, I mean, it's always good to have, a few dollars stored up. It's always good to put away a few dollars. Okay. Just in case something like this was to come up. And so therefore, I mean, something like this was to come up, you can at least have a few dollars to, get you a place to stay, like a hotel or something like that, until you can eventually, put your deposit down, on another apartment or something like that. Okay. But from just listening to this Jake, he didn't have any of that. Okay. He was just pretty much in a bad predicament. He was pretty much at the mercy of this woman, and so he pretty much ran out of his wits behind this woman. It says, ye, many there be that have run out of their wits for women and become servants for their sakes. Okay. And see, here it is, it's Jake. Okay. In the video that was removed from the home, he was pretty much a servant to this woman, because here it is. He was maintaining the home. You heard what he said. He was maintaining the yard. He was paying bills in that home. Okay. I think he said he was even paying a car note. But here it is. None of his name wasn't on any of those things. His name wasn't on the home. His name wasn't on the car. Okay. And so she got upset with him and she removed him. And so he had to pretty much just leave with nothing. Okay. He was pretty much maintaining a home. Okay. And maintaining a car that belonged to this woman. He was pretty much being a servant for this woman. And see, with that being said, this is how a lot of our women like to get down. Not saying all of them, but a lot of our women, they like to get down. They don't want to play their position. Okay. They don't want to be a helpmate to that man. They want that man to basically be a helpmate to them. Okay. They want that man to be a servant to them. This is how a lot of our women, get down. This is how a lot of our women think. Okay. They want to rule over the man, and here it is in many cases when, Eve, this is how a lot of Eves like to get down. They want to try to rule over Jake. And in many cases when Eve, can't rule over Jake, or when Eve is in her feelings, okay, she's quick to want to try to call Esau on Jake, to have Esau to go upside Jake's head with a billy club, to try to have harm calls to Jake, okay, or to try to have Jake removed from the home. Okay, you have a lot of Eves that that get down like this, okay, or in many cases when Eve, can't get her way with Jake, she's quick to want to try to, ruin Jake by trying to stick Jake on child support, or she tried to threaten, to keep Jake from seeing the children, okay, to try to have leverage on Jake. This is how a lot of our women get down, Again, the majority of our women over here, they're through. The majority of our women are wicked as hell over here, But, a lot of women, they want to rule over men, because a lot of our women have pretty much taken on these different enchantments and philosophies that's pushed out over here in Babylon the Great. And see, here it is, Esau, he allows this, okay? He allows for women to rule over men over here, okay? Esau, he puts women in positions, okay, to where they're ruling over men. Esau does this, okay? And a lot of our women have taken on these different enchantments and philosophies. A lot of our women have pretty much made a pact with this devil Esau. Let's get the next verse. This is 1 Ezra chapter 4 and verse 27. And it reads, many also have perished, have erred, and sinned for women. Okay. And so here it is. You have a bunch of cemeteries that are full of men, okay, that have perished behind a wicked woman. Okay. Here it is. I mean, you have prisons, okay, that are full of men, okay, that have erred, okay, behind, dealing with a wicked woman. Here it is. I had a cousin, and I've shared this in previous lessons, but I had a cousin. Okay. And here it is. He was dealing with this woman. He was married to this woman, this Eve, and she was cheating on him. Okay. She was cheating on him with several different men and whatnot. Well, anyway, one day that Eve, she came up unalive. And one of the men that she was cheating on my cousin with, he also came up unalive. And here it is. The evidence was pointing towards my cousin, as the one who did it. Now, according to my cousin, he maintained his innocence. He said that he was innocent. But again, the evidence was pointing towards him. And so as a result of that, my cousin, he ended up going to prison. He ended up spending the rest of his life in prison. He ended up dying in prison behind that. Okay, because he became ill and he perished in prison. But no, this happened because he was dealing with an adulterous, wicked woman, And so a lot of men have perished. A lot of men have went to prison. Okay. A lot of men have gone off, okay, behind dealing with the wicked woman, Also, too, I know another Jake that's in prison right now. He's doing 22 years in prison, all behind a woman. Okay. Here it is. This woman was actually his cousin. And here it is, his cousin called him up because she was dealing with the Jake and they was into it. Okay, and so this Jake that's now in prison, he came to his cousin's rescue to try to help her. Okay, and so him and the Jake that she was dealing with, they got into it. And the Jake, he ended up unaliving the Jake that the female was dealing with. Okay, and so as a result of that, the police, they became involved. And so this Eve, she pretty much ratted her cousin out. She pretty much wrote a statement against her cousin, telling everything that he had did. Basically telling the police that that he came over there and he unalived that Jake that she was dealing with. And so as a result of that, this Jake that I'm telling you about, he's now doing 22 years in prison, all behind dealing with a wicked woman. Because of this wicked woman that I'm telling you about, a man got unalived behind her, and another man ended up doing 22 years in prison behind her. Okay? And so many have perished, many have erred, and many have sinned for women. Okay? A lot of men have ended up in bad predicaments, in bad situations behind a woman. And so with that being said, men of Israel, you got to be very careful when you're dealing with these women out here. You got to be very careful. Okay, I want to end off here in the book of Micah, and this is chapter 7, this is verse 5. And it reads, trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide, keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. Okay, it says, trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide. Okay, and so with that being said, you should always keep a watchful eye. Okay, now this right here is not taking anything away from the brotherhood, because you have, sincere brothers out there that mean well. Okay, and you'll know those sincere brothers. Okay, because the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua will give you the spirit of discernment to know those sincere brothers and know those sincere leaders and whatnot. Okay, it says, trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide, keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. Okay, and so with that being said, you can't be just sharing everything with the woman. They got this thing called pillow talk, the way you'll have men, they'll just be pouring their hearts out to women and whatnot, sharing everything with the woman. That's not good to do that, because in many cases, a lot of times when these women, when they get in their feelings, they'll use some of those things against you that you shared with them. They'll use those things against you in an argument. Okay, and then before you know it, things can spiral out of control, and before you know it, you'll be in a situation just like how this Northern Kingdom Jake was, removed from the home, put out of the home. Okay, because again, here it is. I mean, everything has been turned upside down. Everything is totally out of order over here in Babylon the Great. And Esau, he gives these women, power to do these things. Okay, Esau, he gives the woman power to remove the man out of the home. Here it is. I mean, a woman, all she got to do is just start crying and whatnot, to Esau and whatnot. And she, a lot of times, I mean, you'll have these women, they'll come up with all types of lies and whatnot, against Jake and whatnot. And before you know it, Jake will be, kicked out of the home and a lot of times thrown in jail. And I'm not doing this lesson to bash all of our women, because we have some of our women that have come back and they're trying to do right. But again, you have to stand on the truth. The majority of our women over here in Babylon the Great, they have Satan on them. And so again, men of Israel, you got to be very careful when you're dealing with these women out here. Very careful. Okay. And so, I'm going to go ahead and end off here. I hope it was edifying. Once again, I want to give all honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, and double honors and respect to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, Kwam Yasharal and Abba Abba. Shalom.